In theory, the Oscars represent a celebration of artistic achievement and excellence in filmmaking. It's a time when the industry comes together to honor outstanding talent and innovation. Some eagerly anticipate the awards season,
What is your favorite season? Awards.
while others view such ceremonies as emblematic of an exclusive, self-congratulatory club and one that often overlooks deserving achievements at that. And there's no denying that these awards hold a significant sway over the cinematic landscape, from deciding who gets recognition to what types of films even get made. The organization has been accused of being out of touch with both the film industry and the broader culture, leading to instances where more understated but technically excellent accomplishments go ignored for larger and more conventional mainstream fare. Reports of lobbying and manipulation in campaigns to secure nominations highlight the commercial interests at play behind the scenes. The Academy's membership has been criticized for being overwhelmingly white, male, and older, which obviously influences the types of films that receive recognition. The organization's own continual perpetuation of biases and reluctance to address systemic issues within the industry have further eroded public trust in its integrity and credibility. Strangely, but maybe not surprisingly, it was a fear of labor unions that was a driving force behind the establishment of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, henceforth the Academy. In the early days of Hollywood, East Coast banks financed films produced by West Coast studios. Film profits primarily went back to the studios, repaying the financiers and retaining the remainder. The talent, including actors, writers, and directors, were under strict contract and essentially belonged to the studios, who again were enjoying the majority of the financial success. Obviously, this model was a ticking time bomb. Concerns arose about the potential organization of labor, including demands for more control from contract players and for talent seeking pensions, healthcare, and a share of profits and residuals. What do you mean media artists deserve minimum pay rates, benefits, and workplace standards? That's like crazy. I mean, good thing this was so long ago and is no longer an issue today. Old Hollywood supervillain Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM, recognized these risks and anticipated the need for a solution. This concern first emerged when he wanted to build a beach house in Santa Monica. See, he wanted to girl boss gatekeep Gaslight and use MGM's studio crews and designers to help keep costs low. But this master plan was foiled. These set designers and crew members had recently entered into new labor agreements, which prevented them from working on outside projects such as Mayer's
Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Thus, Mayer, along with other studio executives, founded the Academy. The goal was to prevent the unionization of actors and other talent by persuading them to become Academy members under the promise that joining would lead to improved working conditions. Influential figures like Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford were enlisted to join, with Fairbanks becoming the first president of the Academy. The Academy Awards, or the Oscars, was first introduced in 1929 and served as the ultimate distraction to make the talent compete for prestigious awards, thus preventing them from banding together and demanding fair pay and better working conditions. Louis B. Mayer himself said, "I found the best way to handle filmmakers was to hang medals over them. If I got them cups and awards, they'd kill themselves to produce what I wanted. That's why the Academy Award was created." Golly! This becomes especially sinister when you consider the fact that back then, actors were not nominated for specific roles, but rather their body of work for each year. Naturally, those who had done more films had a higher chance of winning, essentially enticing the already overworked and underpaid talent to burn themselves out competing against each other for a little gold man. The Oscars had humble beginnings as a private event at the Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles, with winners being announced in the newspaper the next day. The ceremony would not even be televised for decades to come. By the 1940s, other associations began cropping up, debuting their own award ceremonies. Founded in 1943, the Hollywood Foreign Correspondents, later the Foreign Correspondents of Hollywood, then most memorably the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, RIP, and finally, as of 2024, Golden Globes LLC, under Dick Clark Productions. That organization, which honestly makes the Oscars look like a walk in the park, first presented the Golden Globe Awards in 1944. Then in 1949, the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences created the Emmy Awards as their response to the Oscars. These are three of the oldest entertainment awards ceremonies and all made their televised debuts in the 1950s. Around this time, we saw a massive change in audience viewing behavior. Films, which had previously mostly been viewed in theater, were continuing to dominate the entertainment landscape up until the 1940s. By 1946, approximately 8,000 U.S. households households had TV sets in their homes, but by 1951, that number skyrocketed to 12 million. Television had officially replaced radio as the dominant broadcast medium in home. And from the 1950s through to like the early 2000s, award shows were considered must-watch television. But do people still watch the Oscars? Are they still relevant? Well, viewership peaked in 1998 with 55.2 million viewers tuning in. However, as I'm sure you are aware, there has been a steady decline. In 2021, the Oscars experienced an 81.2% drop from this peak with only 10.4 million viewers. This was about half from the previous year in 2020. However, this does make sense due to the pandemic, and last year in 2023, the viewership climbed to around 18.7 million. However, the last time the ceremony drew in an audience of I think more than 40 million was all the way back in 2014, so 10 years ago already, after which numbers have remained historically low. Additionally, the audience demographic has shifted towards older viewers, with advertisers' target age group of 18 to 49 likewise dwindling each year. One of the major glaring issues is that the format of televised award shows has hardly changed in over 50 years. We live in an entirely different world from their humble beginnings, and the massive technological advancements of the digital age have changed the ways in which we consume and interact with media. Many younger people just don't have the desire or frankly the attention span to watch a drawn-out 3-hour-long ceremony when they could simply watch the highlights on TikTok the next day. The major players have changed as well. Streaming platforms now are the production companies, with more nominations going to productions by Netflix, Hulu, and Prime each year. Instead of encouraging you to go to the movies, they want your recurring and ever-increasing subscription money. Martin Scorsese notably has objected to the rise in streaming platforms for this very reason. Moreover, the Academy and the Oscars must contend with the aforementioned criticisms and controversies that have threatened their integrity and credibility, from allegations of discrimination to For You campaigns
I meant for your consideration, Lamau.
bordering on bribery. The Academy has come under scrutiny for its decision-making processes as well as its voting practices. The Academy is made up of actors, writers, directors, costume designers, makeup artists, producers, and other industry professionals. Membership is offered exclusively by invitation, and eligibility can be obtained through the receipt of an Oscar nomination or by securing sponsorship from 2 existing Academy members who belong to the same branch as that candidate. So the Academy, that is not academics or critics, is responsible for all the Oscar nominations and wins, which are mostly decided by members of each relevant branch, i.e. directors vote for directors, but all vote for Best Picture. Thomas Flight's video entitled Why Are the Oscars Like That offers valuable insight into the opaque voting process that is influenced by PR campaigns and external forces, so I'll link that below, as well as my other sources per usual. Essentially, the nominees are chosen from a much shorter list of eligible films that the voters have actually watched. For Your Consideration campaigns are a form of advertising that heavily influence voters' choices and can make or break a film's chance of being nominated. As such, factors like marketing budgets all too often outweigh artistic quality in voters' decisions. This obviously perpetuates a cycle wherein the most well-funded films receive more attention, nominations, and box office success. And as for these voters, in February 2012, the Los Angeles Times revealed that the Academy was composed of 94% white members, 77% of which were male, and 86% age 50 and older, with a median age of 62. Okay. The Academy has recently implemented diversity standards for both its members and the films they nominate. Actually, this year in 2024, the Academy is implementing pretty big changes, including the introduction of new eligibility requirements for Best Picture nominees, but more on that later. So historically, aggressive campaigning as well as the slant of the organization's white, male, and older demographic are directly responsible for the films nominated. With that in mind, I'm going to briefly recap some of the more problematic moments in the ceremony's history, but do bear in mind these are only a few select examples of many. In 1940, at the 12th Academy Awards, Hattie McDaniel, then one of the most prominent Black actresses, had received a Best Supporting Actress nomination for her role in the adapted epic Gone with the Wind, which takes place during the American Civil War. Her character Mammy is a house slave and the head of the film's fictional southern plantation, and her portrayal received praise from critics across the board. McDaniel herself was actually the daughter of 2 former enslaved individuals. Her mother, Susan Holberg, Stewart was a gospel singer, and her father, Henry McDaniel, served in the Civil War as a soldier with the 122nd United States Colored Troop. That year, the Academy Awards was held at the Ambassador Hotel, and due to segregation laws, the producers actually had to petition for McDaniel's attendance. Even then, she was seated at a small table set far against a wall and separated from her co-stars. Hattie McDaniel did win Best Supporting Actress, which came as no surprise, and in her acceptance speech, she said,
"And I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel, and may I say thank you."
In return, Hollywood continually typecast her as the mammy archetype in nearly 80% domestic roles throughout her career. This led the NAACP to disown her on the grounds of perpetuating negative stereotypes. Even after her death, her Oscar, which she had left to Howard University, was deemed valueless and stolen from the school subsequently. Her final wish was to be buried at Hollywood Cemetery, which was denied. In 1973, Marlon Brando declined his Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in The Godfather in protest against Hollywood's treatment and portrayal of Indigenous people in film. Instead of accepting the Oscar in person, Brando sent activist and fellow actor Sacheen Littlefeather to decline the award on his behalf. Littlefeather, in a patchy dress, gave a powerful speech which was met with a mixture of cheers and boos from the attending audience. Even more unsettling was the aftermath of this protest, when Littlefeather reported that John Wayne had to be restrained by security guards as he tried to aggressively confront her, and the incident was mocked by the likes of Clint Eastwood. Shocking, I know. In 2002, at the 73rd Academy Awards, Halle Berry became the first Black woman to receive the Best Actress award for her role in Monsters Ball. Her reaction is one of absolute disbelief, and it truly brings me to tears.
"This moment is for Dorothy Dandridge, Lena Horne, Diane Carroll, the women that stand beside me, Jada Pinkett, Angela Bassett, Vivica Fox, and it's for every nameless, faceless woman of color that now has a chance, because his door tonight has been opened."
Last year in 2023, Halle Berry presented the Best Actress Award to Michelle Yeoh, who became the second ever non-white actress to win for her role in Everything Everywhere All at Once. In 2003, just a year after Halle Berry's win, she returned to present the award for Best Actor. After announcing the winner as Adrian Brody for his role in The Pianist, Brody ran on stage and passionately kissed Halle Berry, which was completely surprising and non-consensual as well, and she's discussed it since. For the same film, convicted child predator and fugitive Roman Polanski won Best Director. This year really demonstrated the Academy's tendency to turn a blind eye to the egregious actions of its most prominent figures and then go on to celebrate them. 2006 had one of the most infamous Best Picture wins as Crash beat out Brokeback Mountain. Despite the latter being a much stronger contender and receiving critical acclaim, it also faced conspicuous homophobic backlash. Crash is actually considered by some to be the worst Best Picture of all time. I'm not going to spend much time on the winners that shouldn't have won instances because those are inherently going to be subjective, but in this case, homophobia in the industry was a prevailing issue. In 2015, all 20 nominees at the 87th Academy Awards were white. A conversation started regarding the lack of diversity and the very apparent whitewashing of the Academy Awards. This led to social media campaigning and #OscarsSoWhite, which called out the Academy on a very public scale. It's easily one of the most memorable and impactful critiques of the organization. However, prior to this movement, people of color in the industry had long criticized the Academy for its severe lack of diversity and representation. Even so, the 88th Academy Awards repeated the same crimes of the previous year, as all 20 actors and 4 or 5 directors were once again white. This sparked a boycott of the awards led by Jada Pinkett Smith and director Spike Lee, and the following wave of outrage seemed to finally shame the Academy into recruiting a more diverse and younger class. Notably, Spike Lee's highly critically acclaimed 1989 film Do the Right Thing was omitted from the Best Picture nominees that year, as Driving Miss Daisy took home the award. When we consider the Academy's demographic bias, Driving Miss Daisy, directed by Bruce Beresford, I think that's how you say it, reveals a much safer and more conservative depiction of racism than Do the Right Thing, a film that is more influential, raw, and artistically ingenious in its storytelling. Films with characters from minority backgrounds are often filtered through a white-centric lens, focusing more on the perspectives of white characters or presenting a sanitized version of reality. Best Picture wins, like Driving Miss Daisy, or even more recently, like 2018's The Green Book, have been highly criticized for their portrayal of race relations, with many arguing that they prioritize white comfort over authentic storytelling. Such white savior narratives that are favored by the Academy tend to perpetuate the notion that progress is achieved through the intervention of benevolent white figures. This not only distorts history, but undermines the experiences of marginalized communities, which just reinforces a narrow view of cinema. The 2017 Oscars actually had a record number of nominations for actors from minority groups, and that year saw Moonlight, a film featuring an LGBTQ+ storyline and all-black cast, emerge victorious over La La Land for Best Picture after that memorable onstage mix-up.
They read the wrong thing.
This is not a joke. Moonlight has won Best Picture. Moonlight, Best Picture.
In 2018, the 90th Academy Awards addressed the #MeToo and Time's Up movements, which called out sexual misconduct allegations against industry figures like Harvey Weinstein. This was reflective of broader societal reckonings with issues of power and accountability in the entertainment industry and at large. The Academy has since expelled several members for sexual misconduct, including producer Harvey Weinstein in 2017, actor Bill Cosby and director Roman Polanski in 2018, and cinematographer Adam Kimmel in 2021 after a Variety story revealed he is a registered sex offender. In 2020, Cynthia Erivo was the sole non-white acting nominee, and no female directors were recognized. Korean film Parasite did make history by deservingly winning multiple awards, including Best Picture, as it was the first foreign language film across the 92-year history at the time to do so. In a speech, director Bong Joon-ho beautifully stated, "Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films." In recent years, efforts to diversify the Academy's voting body have seemingly led to some more diverse winners. Jane Champion and Chloe Zhao became only the second and third women ever to win Best Director. Chinese-born Zhao, who won for her film Nomadland, was also the first woman from a ethnically diverse background to receive this honor. And there's last year's Best Picture, Everything Everywhere All at Once. A truly mind-bending story about so many things, the heart of which is the strained and complex relationship between a queer first-generation child and her Asian immigrant mother. This film is truly extraordinary. It's strange and subversive, bizarre and beautiful, and deeply touching. It pretty much broke me in the best way possible. I've seen it several times and watched many analyses, and I feel like there's still so much yet to uncover. It depicts a cosmic journey to love and acceptance across the multiverse and is so incredibly special. I'm gonna cry about it if I keep talking about it. EEAAO dissenters need not apply, essentially. The film is nominated for 11 Academy Awards, winning 7, but its most compelling achievement for me was its acting. As previously mentioned, this led to Michelle Yeoh becoming the first non-white Best Actress in more than 2 decades. Her co-star Ke Huy Quan likewise won Best Supporting Actor for his genuinely moving and dynamic performance. Many American audiences will remember Quan as an adorable 80s child actor, playing Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Data in the Goonies. However, he nearly gave up on his acting career after finding scant opportunities as an Asian American adult in the industry.
My journey started on a boat. I spent a year in a refugee camp. Stories like this only happen in the movies. I cannot believe it's happening to me. My wife, Echo, who for 20 years told me one day my time will come. Dreams are something you have to believe in. I almost gave up on mine.
I felt so grateful to witness the return and celebration of such a wonderfully talented artist, and one with a genuinely infectious positive energy at that. But I couldn't help but feel like the moment was bittersweet. I mean, what have we missed out on all these years? How many other countless talents have been suppressed and cast aside by the very industry they pour their heart and soul into? What stories have not been told? I personally believe that reform is possible, but can we be optimistic? This year's nominations do reflect a more global and diverse selection of films, with non-English language movies gaining prominence and international members playing playing a larger role in the voting process. Furthermore, as I touched on earlier, the 2024 changes include the introduction of new eligibility requirements for Best Picture nominees, which of course has left some screaming, crying, and throwing up over the prospect of diversity standards. For the 96th Academy Awards, meeting 2 out of 4 of the following standards are required in order for the film to be deemed eligible. Standard A: on-screen representation, themes, and narratives. This standard focuses on diversity of representation in front of the camera. This means having diverse actors and storylines that focus on underrepresented groups. These underrepresented groups include women, racial or ethnic minorities, LGBTQ+ individuals, and people with disabilities. To qualify for Standard A, films need to meet at least one of the following criteria. A1: have a lead or significant supporting actors from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups. A2: ensure at least 30% of actors in secondary roles are from underrepresented groups. A3: center its main storyline, themes, or narrative on underrepresented groups. Standard B: creative leadership and project team. This standard focuses on diversity behind the camera. It requires key creative roles like directors, producers, and department heads to include individuals from underrepresented groups. To qualify for Standard B, a film needs to meet at least one of the following criteria. B1: have creative leadership positions and department heads from underrepresented groups, with at least one from an underrepresented racial or ethnic background. B2: include at least 6 crew or technical positions from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups. B3: ensure that at least 30% of the film's crew comes from underrepresented groups. Standard C: industry access and opportunities. This standard focuses on providing opportunities for underrepresented groups within the film industry. To qualify for Standard C, a film needs to meet at least one of the following criteria. C1: offered paid apprenticeships or internships to underrepresented groups in various departments. C2: provide training and work opportunities for underrepresented groups, particularly in below-the-line roles. Standard D: audience development. This standard aims to promote diversity within studio and film company teams responsible for development, marketing, publicity, and distribution. To qualify for Standard D, a film needs to meet the following criteria. D1: have multiple senior executives from underrepresented groups within the studio or film company teams, including at least one from an underrepresented racial or ethnic background. Reminder that in this year of our Lord 2024, all of the Best Picture nominees qualify, meaning they all meet at least 2 out of these 4 categories. In terms of content, films that don't even pass the Bechdel test can still qualify. I don't think these standards are that difficult to meet. Let's say the content of the film doesn't qualify for Standard A. As for Standard B, it's very common for design and hair and makeup styling roles to be filled by women, with diversity in other key roles as well. Standard C emphasizes providing access and opportunities for underrepresented groups, primarily emphasizing the presence of paid apprenticeships and internships as well as training opportunities. Similarly, for Standard D, having multiple senior executives from underrepresented groups within studio or film company teams might not be that challenging, especially considering the diversity in, say, publicist positions. While Standard C and D contribute to creating more inclusive and diverse ecosystems, meeting these standards alone may not necessarily lead to greater diversity in the content and representation on screen. As such, Standards A and B ensure that on-screen representation and creative leadership diversity are likewise prioritized. This only applies to Best Picture nominees, and they just have to meet 2 out of these 4 categories. This isn't about pandering to progressivism or forcing filmmakers to change their movies. Film is a powerful medium that reflects and even shapes our perceptions of the world. By promoting diversity and inclusion in storytelling and filmmaking, where it's largely been historically absent, movies can reflect the rich and diverse human experience and perspectives. If you can't find a designer and a marketing person who isn't a straight, cis, white, non-disabled male, or implement a more robust internship, the bar is already in hell. Ultimately, the Oscars serve as a celebration of cinematic excellence and a reflection of the industry's shortcomings. The fact that we're still seeing so many firsts in the 2020s is a positive testament to development, but also exemplary of the historic exclusionary nature of the awards. In this context, advocating for diversity and inclusion in filmmaking isn't just about rectifying past injustices, but more about challenging the entrenched power structures that have long acted as vehicles of suppression. It's about demanding greater transparency and representation in the nomination and voting process. And I do believe there is reason to remain optimistic. While the cinematic landscape has been saturated with exhaustingly derivative content, whitewashed historical accounts, and unnecessary remakes that, let's be honest, no one asked for, it's refreshing to see the success of foreign language films, diverse casts, and original narratives from marginalized voices. 2024 is a particularly stacked year, and I'm personally excited to have a little watch party. So what do you think? Will you watch the Oscars? Do you care who wins? Do you think the diversity standards are necessary? And if so, do you think they'll be effective? Thank you for watching my 4th YouTube video. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate if you liked and subscribed and maybe left a respectful comment. I've been having a lot of fun making YouTube videos about fashion and film, and I have totally rekindled my love of research and writing. It means an awful lot to have you here.
The silver play button is right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, but thanks again. Thanks to you. Thanks to the Academy. And I will hope to see you in the next one. Okay, bye!